We all know that sound, and I don't know if I can fully articulate it in a manner that will adequately convey it, but when we hear it, we just know. Well, I guess let me try. It goes something like this. Do-do-do, 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 do-do-do. That work?
No idea what that was supposed to be. I don't think anybody does.
Well, I told you it's hard. That was my attempt at using the words to describe the sound of the music speeding up as Mario's time starts running out at the end of the level. You're welcome to try it yourself. I promise it's a lot harder than it sounds.
I can hear it in my brain, but I can't say it, so I guess you did pretty good. But nobody wants to hear that either. The only sound that I can hear is the sound of people clicking off, the video.
But as soon as I mentioned it, you did hear it, like in your head, right?
Yeah, I did.
That horrible sound of time running out in a game. Made most famous by the timer once it reaches that 100 ticks and counting mark in the original Super Mario Brothers game on the NES. That's the moment that everything shifts. We become fiercely aware of a countdown that changes the entire mood of the game. Previously, we had that nice, slow, steady, cheerful soundtrack in the background, but all of a sudden, it's replaced by a more urgent, sped-up version that immediately causes the hair on my arms to stand up on end.
Even if there is more than enough time left to finish the level, I begin running towards the exit and literally skipping everything along the way that isn't mission critical. I jump over non-essential enemies instead of engaging them. I cease my obsession with collecting every single coin and hitting every, question mark block. And I focus on the one thing that matters most, successfully reaching the end before my time runs out.
Over my years of playing video games, I have defeated foes large and small. I've outfoxed intellectual adversaries. I've outgunned massive armies. I've soared over previously impassable canyons. And I've saved multiple universes in the process. Even the bosses with the cheapest and most unfair tactics have eventually been left in the dust, as a combination of painstaking research and perseverance finally granted me victory that eluded me in my first, 100 tries. But after years of trying, failing, and eventually succeeding in all of those games, I have found that the most challenging adversary I have ever faced is the one that still remains undefeated.
Of all the obstacles I have encountered, my least favorite opponent isn't a character. It's the clock. As a matter of fact, I tend to avoid any game that features a timer or any sense of a time clock because they really stress me out. Like, you don't understand. Like, I start sweating and my palms, my controller falls off my hands. Like, it's not even funny. I like to take my time, explore every nook and cranny of the game, and move at my own pace.
If I want to feel the weight and pressure of running out of time, I have my real world to do that for me. Thank you very much. From the slow but sure countdown in the right hand of the screen in just about every Mario adventure I've ever played, to that ever-encroaching moon that's bearing down on us in Majora's Mask. Even real-world clocks in games like Animal Crossing, time is rarely on our side. Time is the ultimate non-renewable resource in our video games, as well as in our real lives. And once it's gone, we can never get it back.
Over.
I have probably said the phrase, never enough time, often enough.
Every day.
It probably should be the title of my biography, if the one was going to be written. I'm not saying that it should. That would be really, really boring and sad. I'm not saying that there should be one. It'd be pretty dull, but if there was, that would have to be the name of it. Between remaining gainfully employed in an actual job, the mundane realities of maintaining a home, the joys of spending time with family and friends, and the deadlines that are associated with writing and recording articles and videos to share in our spare time, is just never enough time to do it all.
I promise you, I think he says that every single day. Every day.
It's going to be on my tombstone. There was never enough time.
I have a feeling most of us feel that way on a regular basis, whether it is relationships, school, work, hobbies, health priorities, or any of the other million ways that our time is invested or absorbed. Time simply marches on emotionlessly, leveling the playing field for all of us as a boss fight that cannot be avoided, negotiated with, or paused.
Over the thousands of years of human history, time has ravaged every empire, toppled every world leader, and it still stands undefeated. None of us know if we have hours, days, years, or decades remaining on this planet. It's probably for the best. If we could see that timer counting down in the corner of the screen and we heard the sound of the music speeding up in the background, that'd probably just cause us more stress and anxiety than we're already carrying. But there's one thing we know for sure. Regardless of our age, with each passing page of the calendar, we all have less time playing this game than when we started.
Now that we are aware that our time is both exceptionally limited as well as moving forward regardless of our preferences, we must carefully choose what to do with whatever amount of it remains. Fortunately, the Bible has captured some of these very open and honest endgame moments from those who were painfully aware that their journey was closer to the finish than the start.
And by taking a closer look at what they prioritized and what mattered most as they approached the event horizon of their time on the planet, we can gain insight on how we can maximize the time that we have remaining to us as well. So let's start with the final recorded words of the Apostle Paul found in 2 Timothy. The entire letter is worthy of review simply because it is kind of the last testament of a man who lived his life in service of Christ. But a few areas popped out to me that demonstrated what was a priority for Paul as he entered his final lap. So first, the obvious. As his time ticked down, Paul was trying to solidify his legacy and ensure that he had passed on his knowledge to the ones who had been charged with carrying the baton after that handoff was complete. He prayed for those he would leave behind with exceptional urgency, and he prepared them for the realities of what they would face and how they should prepare for their own upcoming battles. He impressed upon them the importance of what matters most at the end of a well-run race. But most notably, as Paul realized that he was writing his final chapter in life, we see that his focus is on what was eternally significant, not just for himself, but for those who would remain behind, that he would no longer be able to reach, guide, or serve.
Paul didn't seem overly concerned with those things that would pass like dust in the wind, such as his hairline, his weight, his social status, the amount of money he had in the bank, the laws that Caesar was enacting, or the current real estate values. He saw only what mattered the most, and he set his eyes on using the time he had left to do only those things that would matter in the view of eternity.
Let's take one more example of how we should approach our own personal sunsets, the record of a man who actually knew exactly when his final day would occur. And the way Jesus faced that final 24 hours before his crucifixion is one of the mightiest examples of what it truly means to redeem the time. And if we look close enough, we may find some similarities between his approach and Paul's.
He washed his disciples' feet. He prayed for his followers. He provided reassurance, and he prayed for the strength to face his destiny.
And as they reached the end of their days, both Paul and Jesus looked towards the finish line with a greater sense of urgency, not with panic, but with purpose. Much like the way we approach a game once the clock unkindly reminds us that time is running out, the things that lacked eternal significance faded into the background as they made the most of the time that remained. Those extra coins won't matter when we move into the next level. That collection of bricks over there, sure, smashing them may uncover an interesting surprise, but all the power-up mushrooms in the world still won't grant us more time.
While there are certainly some power-ups that can make this journey easier, strategic decisions we can make that will prolong our time in the level, or warp pipes that will provide shortcuts past some of the obstacles that we will face, as we approach that final jump towards that flagpole at the end of the level, many of our previous pursuits will shrivel in importance and only the critical ones will remain.
The painful reality of our lives on this earth is that there will never be enough time. So what we choose to pursue and how we invest our time matters. Every hour we have been granted down here is more than just a gift to be treasured. It is an investment opportunity. We all have a perishable amount of time to play this game. So how will we decide to use it? Will we chase the coins that are littered around the level that we don't even get to keep?
Will we waste our time engaging in fruitless battles with adversaries that may have been annoyances, but were not actually restricting our progress?
Will we spend more time worrying about the cosmetic aspects of our character that have very little impact on the actual playability of the game?
Will we chase flagpoles that look like the goalposts we are actually seeking, but are actually a distraction intended to misdirect us and waste our valuable time on less worthwhile pursuits of limited value?
Or will we use our time to find and walk the best path, set the oppressed free, burn our candle with a purpose to guide and direct them safely to the other side? As I consider my time left on this planet, I realize I was wrong every time I said there's never enough time. We all receive the exact right amount of time that we need, even if it's different than what others have received.
The question is not if we have been given enough time, it is how did we invest the time we were given. Time will keep marching forward. That clock will keep ticking down in the right-hand corner of our screen. And the flagpole at the end of the level is not going to move closer to us.
It always stays in the same place.
It's going to be there.
Unless it moves farther away. With the end of our race in mind, the actions we take today have an even greater meaning. As Paul and Christ both demonstrated, our minds should be centered on redeeming the precious time we have remaining, serving others in love, the way that Christ chose to wash his followers' feet, leaving a legacy of guidance and knowledge, as Paul did for Timothy, and praying for those who we will hand our batons off to so they can successfully carry the torch forward in their respective races.
There will always be distractions, detours, unavoidable obstacles, and self-inflicted challenges that we will face as we press forward to make that final jump. And the path to get there, as well as how our unique endgame looks, will be different and personalized for each of us.
So let's be intentional with the time that we have and invest it with a renewed sense of purpose. Let's serve others in love, pray for them with a purpose, seek the Lord with intensity, and leave a legacy that will point others towards him long after we are gone. And if we have less time on the clock remaining than we would prefer, let's remember, it's those actions we take at the end of the game that have the greatest resonance and often matter the most. Even if we wasted the first 100 ticks of the clock in a Mario level, it's how we urgently and intentionally use the final 100 that we were given that makes all the difference. Jesus lived a life of incredible meaning and purpose, impacting lives everywhere he went, but his final 24 hours were the ones that had the most eternal impact, fulfilling his destiny on the cross and setting every captive free who seeks him.
The Apostle John was a loyal follower of Christ and one of his 3 most trusted friends, but his final recorded mission as his hourglass reached the 0 hour was to receive and record the book of Revelation, the definitive volume on eschatology and the end of the age.
In his final days of an incredibly powerful life of service to the Lord, Elijah was charged with setting the future in motion by anointing 2 new kings, as well as his own successor, Elisha. So, have you wasted some time on foolish or frivolous pursuits? Well, so have I, more than I can count. But that flagpole is still there waiting for me, and I intend to move with a greater sense of urgency and ensure I stick the landing. In the words of Mario's speedy blue adversary, I gotta go fast. That's in Sonic 3:16. Don't look it up, it isn't real. Might be in the Message Bible, I don't know. I can't help how slow I started, but with the Lord's help, I will run until I hear that trumpet sound.